Welcome to Business Unveiled Podcast. This is the place where we help overwhelmed, time-starved entrepreneurs like you make the profitable shifts to get more done and get more out of life. I'm your host, Angela Profit, award-winning 8-figure entrepreneur and CEO. And in every episode of Business Unveiled, I'm bringing you conversations that will give you the expertise and strategies that will scale your team and business so you can get shit done. That's GSD in our world. So get your time back and grow a business that helps you be present in your life. Let's do this, y'all. Hi, y'all. It's Angela. I'm back for another episode of Business Unveiled, and I'm super excited to talk with our guest today. We have been chatting, and I'm like, we have to start recording because this is all so good. He is a lot like all of you listening and watching. He is an entrepreneur at heart and does a few things really, really well. But there's one specific hot topic that we want to share with you today and talk about, and it's real estate. So, Jonathan, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So before we jump off and talk about real estate, and y'all, we'll probably do a little bit of digital marketing stuff too. We're geeking out, talking about courses and things like that earlier. But share with us your whole journey too, because you're clearly an entrepreneur and you know what's hot and you go where what is hot. How have you fallen into some of these things that you love doing?
Yeah, I think if you want to go way back, I start when I was a little kid. I would take my little, this is way back. I would take my little red wagon when I'm like 4 or 5, go to the neighbors and sell the flowers from our yard to them.
Shut up.
And then
awesome.
take that money to buy toys at Toys R Us, to buy Micro Machines and, the little cars or whatever.
Oh, that's
so I
sweet.
learned the value of hard work at 4 or 5, just kind of doing that. And, also that I learned how to go door to door and not be, afraid to talk to people. And so when I got a little bit older, I started selling cards. I forgot, it was some back in magazine offer. And then you go door to door and sell holiday cards. And I go door to door, sell all the holiday cards. So I get my Super Nintendo games. So I bought my Super SNES and all the games from just selling cards. So I learned the value of working and, being out there, go and get what you want. So I think that's the old school mentality I learned from my parents. And then as I was a teenager, early 20s, I worked at BB, a women's clothing store.
Yep.
Yeah, I ended up being the #1 seller in that in the country and the first to sell $1.5 million a year, which was really good. Back in, 10, 15 years ago, you make pretty good money. I was making 150 plus at my age, it was pretty good. And then them, Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom's were all paying. That's when retail was really big. And everyone actually went to the stores, not shopped online, pre-ecom blowing up. So I kind of saw that trend. That's what got me into digital marketing. And then also same time, my dad was a real estate developer, had a couple real estate offices and a contractor. So as this whole journey, I was always, working on the job sites. And, in my teenage years, I used to fill the dumpsters, there'd be extra lumber and parts. I'd fill the dumpsters. So I was always on the job side of real estate. So I really learned that side of it while I was doing my side hustles. And then once I hit about 30, I was I just want to be an entrepreneur full time. And then just, basically just take control of my future. And that's when I did digital marketing and real estate, which is my 2 main focuses. And now everything's fast forward 10 years. Those are the 2 hottest things going right now. So just kind of wasn't yesterday. It was a long journey to get here, basically.
Well, and that's the important thing because anybody listening or watching and they're like, oh my God, this is easy. I can just come do some videos and then sell some shit online. And it's I'm always telling people, don't compare your numbers and your today to my today. I mean, we've been doing funnels and getting into e-commerce and doing things since 2013. And we still have not scaled one funnel to $1 million, which is the ClickFunnels dream. of
Right,
build a $1
exactly.
million funnel. And
Yep,
I asked you earlier, I'm like, have you been to any ClickFunnels conferences? Like, you're going to see that. It's a little cultish, like in a good, like marketing way, but some of
right.
it, it's like the people get up there and they tell, their stories. And I've actually watched a lot of real estate people do it in their courses too. And I'm like, time out, time out. Okay. I know you just said you made 6 figures, 7 figures on like this one webinar, but can you tell me like how many did you do before that? And what was your investment and your overhead? And
Yep,
what was your
exactly.
actual net? Or,
Yep,
and they just kind of look at me. I'm like, you got that's a really important part of the story here, because you're making people think sitting in the audience that you can just go do this like in a week. And I'm like, these are 6 to 8 month projects. And then
yep,
you test it. And then, I mean, the first couple we've done, like, I never made a profit. I learned more and I got more data, but it's the long haul. And I mean, it's great because it is the two hottest topics right now.
yep,
And just with real estate alone, and when the pandemic started, I never thought like the inventory of homes and people wanting to move and build onto their house, and then the whole supply chain of demand, like you can't even get like simple things to
right.
for like building homes or like doing these remodels, which I know that you've really started to do that. And so I do want to know, I do want you to share with people, how did you start to, because right now like you have this niche of like doing flipping mobile homes. And so how did you get into that?
Yeah, because like now it's like you alluded to, real estate and like mobile homes are like probably the hottest real estate niche right now, one of the hottest, and with the media and everything. But like when I started out 15 years ago, my dad got his first mobile home park, and I would tell my friends, they're like, "What are you talking about?" And like, we're not like I was in a major suburb of Chicago before I moved to the city, and like people out there, they're like, "That's so weird." It's not like if you're in a small town, you're used to them or whatever. In certain Florida or California, you're probably used to them because they're everywhere. But like where we're at, where everyone's like, "What are you talking about? Mobile home parks? This is so weird." Especially being in your 20s and I'm working at a fashion company. Like this doesn't make sense. I'm like, no, these things are great. And then they were the top performing real estate asset. Actually, even Forbes did an article last year, Wall Street Journal, I'm sorry, and it said this is the best performing real estate since the last housing crash. And like it just dominated. Like when everything goes really, really bad, people need affordable housing. And if the rent, an average rent, even at that time, is like $250, but an average apartment's $1,000 for the same thing. Of course, like if you're only paying $60 a week to live in a house, it's a lot better than paying, $250 a week equivalent if it was an apartment, or $1,500 for a house. So it always serves the affordable housing, and there's different levels of parks. And most parks, if you go in these houses, if they're decently maintained, they're actually nice. It's just like a regular, it's just like a regular affordable house. It's not like people have this 8 Mile movie picture in their head where it's like, oh, it's going to be crazy and there's like a meth dealer right next door. It's not like that for 99% of the parks, but like the movies make it sound like that. But you go to anyone that's maintained it, it's actually nice quality affordable living. That's the whole premise behind it. Maybe there's a few slumlords out there and some, that's like anywhere. You go any place where people don't take care of it, it's going to happen. So, but my dad got his first park, and I saw him because remember I said he did all different types of real estate. And he's like, this is the best one I've seen. Like this one just makes sense. And at that time, it was, internet was just kind of getting big, and then there wasn't really much on it. So the returns back then were like 20, 30 plus cash on cash, which is like unheard of, like in real estate. And that was like the norm. Now, just to give you context, in the last year, Wall Street, the biggest private equity in the world, Blackstone, Powell Group, these big Wall Street firms, and are buying billions of dollars of mobile home parks, and like they're all in on our niche because it was the top performing real estate last year by far. So when everything hit the fan, everyone was, like you mentioned, the cost going up, we're the only affordable option. And so we dominated. Like a lot of like real estate went down in value, like commercial side, just because of the supply chain issues and like
Yep.
all the COVID situation. We do better when the crap hits the fan, like goes crazy. Mobile home parks dominate. So that's why people like that, the niche. And then for us, ethically, we're serving the affordable housing, providing quality place to live. We come in and rejuvenate the park. And so I guess what comes back to your question is, yeah, 15 years ago, my dad got in it. I saw it. I was like, this makes sense. Affordable housing. always available to help people that need it. Why wouldn't this not do well? And now it's becoming such a hot niche, and like the numbers have been really substantiated the last like 10, 15 years. Like really, being marketers too, we understand data, and the data all shows like we just dominate when it's like when times are tough, basically. So that's why I went all in on it, basically.
It's so interesting because a couple of things you said. The first thing is you got to know your data, you got to know your numbers, and you got to
Yep.
know your ROI. And then if it's good, like, and it's hot, like you can go all in, but you have to stay in front of the trends. And
Yep.
the data tells you that typically. So that's really
Yep.
important. And we work with a lot of creative entrepreneurs and including myself. And I'm like, data numbers, no, I don't understand. But once I learned how to understand it, it's like the first of every month, I get really excited. And I'm like, all right, let's look at the stuff. Like what worked, what didn't work, what made money, where did we lose money? And it's fun now. And my team makes it fun, which, we got to have fun while we're doing it. Right. But the interesting thing that you said, and it's so true, is that the way that Hollywood and the way that the movies like portray these parks and these, you hear the term like, I mean, I'm from the country and like all the time, like growing up, I can remember even when I was a little girl and people would use the term like, well, they live in a trailer park. They're
Yep.
trash, like they're white
Yeah.
trash. And I'm like, I don't really understand what that means, but my parents never let me said that. And like, I'm really glad that, I was raised that way, that it doesn't matter where people live. It doesn't matter who they are or what they do or how much money they have. Everyone is human. You respect everyone. You're nice to everyone. You make eye contact with people. You smile at people. You're nice. You're kind. It doesn't matter because you never know what's going on with someone. And I'm so thankful I was raised that way because there are so many judgments around this kind of thing. But I will say Hollywood has ruined it. And so getting out there and educating the consumer on, hey, it's not bad. It's actually kind of cool now. So are you on TikTok?
No, that's the only thing I'm not. The only platform I'm not.
Okay, listen. Real estate on TikTok is super effing hot right now. You got
Is it
to check it
really?
out. Yes. There's this guy. Actually, there's multiple guys, but there's one specific guy. So we do a lot of affiliate marketing and set it up for people. And he is like, there's these two guys that are affiliate marketers, but they're totally different. One is like all in on like one big course, like a ClickFunnels course, and saying like focus, focus, focus on being an affiliate for like one big thing that you believe in that has helped you grow your business. While this other guy, he's like 450 affiliates and all this income stream coming in from all this stuff. And they like duet each other on TikTok and like duel it out. It's actually really funny. And I'm like, do you guys have a deal behind the scenes? And you're like
Probably.
building this, which they kind of do. I kind of think they do from a marketing
Everything's
perspective. I think it's
planned.
really
Yeah.
genius. But they both live out of vans. And these vans are, I would say it's more like between like a mobile home, but like it's on wheels, so they can move around and like show up for their audiences. And they're like going around and creating these huge buzz, just fun outdoor parties with masks, but social distancing, like doing all these course launches. And so like some of my team members, I'll send them their TikToks and I'm like, we should get a GSD van and like drive it around. And it's like, get shit done. And, that's like our whole thing. And then the pandemic started and I'm like, well, I guess we have to get shit done at home.
Right.
But we have, and one of my team members for one of her businesses, she actually purchased a van, like this cool old timey kind of thing. But the whole thing is like, it's cool now, like before it's like, oh, if you have a mobile home and you drive around in like a car home, like you're weird or you're poor. But I love these two affiliate marketers because they're like, it's a souped up, really, really nice thing. And they're like, we can go and reach our audience. And so they're completely reframing how consumers perceive like mobile homes and living in these different places where you can just up and go. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a crappy place and it doesn't have to be trashy. In fact, the lap before COVID, there was a new park. It was opening up like 2 hours outside of Nashville, like on the lake. And it was specifically for it was kind of like motorhome kind of things, but it was like very upscale luxury. So we did go tour it for clients' purposes. I don't camp. I don't glamp. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm like, I don't like bugs. I don't like the outdoors at all. But I do love the fact of like being able to like move around. So people that are investing though in these mobile homes, like, do they go and move to like different parks, or do they just stay put?
Yeah, good question. There's a couple of key takeaways. There's two things. There's the RV and then there's the mobile home. And
Okay.
technically, even though the name says mobile home, they're actually full size homes. It takes like big semis, double
To
like the
move
double
it.
wides, and like they have to have a truck that follows to make sure people move out of the way. And so they
Okay.
typically like 95% never really move. And
Okay.
the RV side, like you said, the RV side is very closely related. So a lot of mobile home park owners will have like an RV park too or component to it, which is another trend like that. Those things are exploding right now too. Well, both of them are. You have the tiny home movement. You have TV shows now about the tiny home movement. So that, people, the demographics, even millennials now are like, well, hey, I'd rather, especially if they're creatives, like I'd rather be in Bali half the year. And then instead of having this, 3,000 a month apartment, I'll pay $500, $400 for like a luxury mobile home. And then 6 months a year I'm in Bali, doing that or traveling around the country. But then I have all this extra money I'm saving instead of having this luxury apartment that I'm stuck in and can't go anywhere. So that's why it's been fueling that. And then people, then also comparatively, if you can look at it, like if you're in a mobile home, you usually have your own like grass and acres. The RV parks especially will have like amenities. They'll have like lakes or they'll have something to do. The average apartment for the same price, or even like a class B or C apartment, probably doesn't have anything, and it's probably from like the 60s, 70s. It doesn't have anything enjoyable. So you get all the amenities, you get to save all the money, and that's what's really driving it. And then also what you mentioned, which is funny, like his beginning of the conversation, was Hollywood back in the 50s and 60s, luxury mobile homes were actually considered luxury, and then they kind of pivoted over time. So like Elvis had hit his own park in front of his mansion, whatever they call it down there, uh, in Tennessee. Was it the
In Memphis,
yeah,
I
he
was,
had his own little like 12, all his crew. That was
it's
back, and like so it
there.
was like luxury back in the day. And then it kind of pivoted to, as they got older, like it was considered like a luxury second home, or you want to get away. And right now too, speaking of that, there is Paradise Cove in Malibu. Like Matthew McConaughey lives out there. I think Betsy Johnson, the designer, it's one of the major like women's designers. And then there's also one in something in Hamptons, in New York, and it's like billionaire from Wall Street. It's like four or five billionaires. 3 or 4 or 5 billionaires live in this mobile home park as a weekend getaway because it's right in the ocean. So they have like their $1 million mobile home, and they just go in there, they change, they go for like 2 days, and they go back to the. So you have like both spectrums. You have like they still to this day, there's still some like really, and like the average house in the Paradise Cove, just to give you context, is like 3 to 6 million, 3 to 6 million. But the same houses next door are like 40 million. And so
Yep.
that's why it appeals to people. So, and you're both in both those community parks, you're right on the ocean. So it's like I get ocean view for 3 million. It's still worth it.
Absolutely.
So compared to like what everything else is, and like it's crazy over there in California. But yeah, and then for the investment side of it, it's been fueling it too because it's you can't really develop new parks. RV you can, but mobile home parks, it's like a lot of cities, it's taxation purposes. They don't get the taxation, the local, like just give people context on the financial side of it. The cities take the money from the real estate taxes to pay for the schools, the infrastructure, the roads, the fire, the police, the libraries, all that stuff. And then if the average mobile home tenant's paying $10 a month and 120 bucks a year, while the average house across the street spending $4 grand, well, what do they want more of? They want the $4 grand, not the 120 bucks.
Yep.
So that's why cities like a lot, and that's another benefit for the tenants. Like, hey, we get to go to the same school, fire, everything. We get all the same amenities for $10 a month. The person across the street is spending more in real estate taxes than we pay for our lot rent. So
Interesting.
that's one of the
Never
driving
thought of
factors
these
to it.
things. This never thought of these things
Yeah.
ever. So if people want to get into real estate, like this specific type of niche, like, and I keep going back, like when COVID started, Like my brother was building a home, like we've been looking to move our, like even just personal experiences. I'm just like, this is crazy what is happening with real estate and
Yeah.
like the inventory. And like I'm on all these lists that I sign up for willingly because I want to be emailed like all the new MLS stuff, like any land, any, just because me and my brother have been looking. And then we were also looking for land to build out like a content creation studio. And even the land has been hard and the prices were, I mean, so inflated. And like I'm over here like looking at what it was 4 months ago. And I'm like, are these people effing crazy? Like I'm from here. Like I grew up in
Right.
Nashville. Like this was the slums. This is where like, I mean, undercover, my dad was an undercover cop. My brother was an undercover cop before he started his PI business. And it's like, I'm like, I think my dad was like shot somewhere over there. But
Wow.
now it's like the way that they are, the way that the infrastructure of the city and how they've really started to build it up, like the crime and stuff. It's like on one side of the interstate, you've got crack houses, but and some mobile homes that are crack houses. And then on the other side of the interstate, less than a mile, you have $1 million homes, that are
Yeah.
the tall and skinnies. And it's so just the real estate market in Nashville alone. I know that it has been crazy because I have friends that live all over the world who have been saying just like real estate's crazy, real estate's crazy. But if someone wants to get into investing, do you have a course or something that teaches people like how to get into like mobile home investment type things?
Yeah. Actually, we have a launch coming in about 4 weeks here, 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
And it's going to be like step by step teaching people how to flip wholesale. And the best part about our niche is like it doesn't, like you had mentioned how that skyrocketing cost. The average house in America has gone up to like 300 and some $1,000. And well, if you're collecting unemployment or you work at, 50% of the jobs that created from the last decade are minimum wage jobs. But if you make minimum wage, you could live in a mobile home park and still have food and still have, be able to live. And that's why if you're serving that percentage, the 60 million of people in America that need affordable housing, you fill that void. And there's only 44,000 parks. And, so you have this large, you know, gap of where you need to be, and we have the only solution. So there's always demand for it. So we teach people how to get started step by step. We have all the contracts. In our industry, it's kind of like a lot of the old school guys are kind of like, they never wanted to give away the secrets, but then the internet happened
Yep.
because they knew it was such a gold mine. And now like when all these articles start coming out, so now they have to, it's a changing of the guard. The old school guys are selling off their old parks and making huge money. And then the new people coming in want to revitalize it and, make money and, also serve that affordable housing need. And so we basically teach people how to do the flipping and wholesaling. But then also we have like a bonus section, how to buy your first park. It's not real intensive on it, but the whole goal is to get people to flip, wholesale, or rent to own. And so they have that monthly income for the next few years. And then eventually, as you're doing these with some of these parks, that a small park, the owner will say, hey, I want you to sell this to you instead of listing with a broker. I like what you've done. You're hands-on. And then now you become a millionaire just by getting your first park. So, and then most of the time the seller will finance that or give it to you, or you get, if it's a small enough park and they like you probably get seller financing for the first few years. Then you go to the bank and say, hey, this is the cash flow of the asset, or use the same bank he's using. We're just changing it over. I don't need to put a down payment because he's handing it over to me. Or you pull some of the equity out of the park. So it's a great way to just basically teach people how to be financially free and the easiest real estate.
Yep.
And the best part is, I forgot to mention this, is like you're not competing. When you mention all the other real estate, everyone's going on the MLS. It's driving the prices up crazy on the regular real estate. Well, our niche is under the radar. So because every TV show is teaching people how to flip single family houses, every course, every seminar that comes into town, there's a room full of 500 people. Do you want to compete with those same 500 people? And you're even in Nashville, 500 people competing in one room, and they do seminars every week. That's thousands of people competing. Or do you want to compete with like one or two people? So it's like really blue ocean. As an entrepreneur, you want to be in the ocean where you can come in. You don't even have to be that great and come in and scoop it up before everyone's, the riches are in the niches. You want to go where people are not at, but it's also trending, and also where there's opportunity, and you're also helping people. So it kind of fits every void. And then you kind of come in there and just be like, all right, cool. Might not be glamorous, but this is where the money is, and I'm also helping people and making money.
Absolutely. So like, how does this work? Do you like go buy some land and then, you know, like get all the trees down and then buy some mobile homes and then you start a park? Like, this is just me as a dumb consumer, like not knowing, but I'm like, do you have to get permits to do this? Or like, I'm sure it's all in your course. You're like, just watch the course. But like, really, I mean, how does that work to like start a park? Is that how it works? Like my whole thing is like, what I'm picturing in my head. Have you been to Burning Man in Las Vegas? Or have you heard of it?
No, no, yeah, I know exactly what it is. I know people that go to it, but yeah.
I'm just like envisioning like this amazing park, like this mobile home park with nice mobile homes, and like all the digital marketers who do courses like coming together like once a week, like a quarter, and like having these amazing discussions about like Facebook ads and how crazy it is right now. Anyway, but I'm just like, how do you do this? Like, can anybody go buy land, clear it, bring in mobile homes and start marketing them and renting it to people? Or are there rules?
Yeah, good question. There's a couple points that speaking of your idea, Tony, the guy that just they think maybe killed himself or had that issue from Zappos, we sold to Amazon. He had
Mm-hmm.
his own mobile home park and community full of like creatives in Vegas. He was worth like, 8 or 900 million. And he lived in his own mobile home park, and it was in Vegas, and he'd do like parties and stuff like that. They would have like a daily or outdoor like kind of like Burning Man. They have a little concerts outside, and it was all creatives, and it's tiny homes, mobile homes. So it's kind of, he literally took your idea and was doing that. And everyone's like, well, and then he also did a lot of, infrastructure in Vegas. But yeah, like a billionaire living in a mobile home, that was kind of like the story. He just passed away, I
Wow.
don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago, like some crazy weird accident. So they're trying to figure out if it was like suicide or weird. It was weird. But yeah, so he did that. And then also like in regards to like, it's too costly. Well, one, most of the cities don't want it because of the taxation. So the park owner pays the bulk of the taxes for the land. To get approval, it's only about 7 to 10 parks based on the data we could find. There's not like really institutional data, but it's almost impossible to get a brand new park. So you can't just go buy a lot, and then say, hey, well, then there's the cost structure of it, the cost basis. So you have to put in the sewage, the water line. Do you have to connect to like either the city or bring in your own sewage or water? All that infrastructure is very costly. And then you have to buy, you're not going to find used homes to bring in. You're going to have to buy new homes. And Warren Buffett is the biggest owner of mobile homes manufacturing. It's called Clayton Homes. So he's got this multi-billion-dollar company, Clayton Homes, that builds mobile homes. But the average home is 75,000. So if you bring in 10 homes at 750,000, you bring in 20 homes, 1.5 million, plus the infrastructure, and then you have to get people to come in. So like at that point, you're not even profitable usually on a cost basis for like 3 or 4 years if you get approved. So what most people, like all the investors do, is they buy something that's already cash flow positive. Like here's our 40-year history of this park. Here's how much income comes in. Here's the expenses. Here's what we can improve upon. And they buy some from day one that pays their bills. And the way they make money is they reduce overhead, increase rents. So that's the core side of it, is going to these smaller owners and then saying, hey, like a lot of these guys are 60s, 70s, they developed in the 70s, 80s. They're older, the kids don't want to do anymore. So you come in and say, hey, you can literally just drive by your local park and look for sale by owner in the windows. Most of these aren't listed on MLS. And if a broker lists it, they don't know how to price it because it's not the same data as a house. And then plus, any real estate broker does not want to be showing a house when they could be selling a house for $7,000 across. So the brokers never really focus on it because it's not worth their time. So for you as an investor, this is where you make your money. Like the brokers, you can make the same what they would make, but the real estate broker doesn't want to do any work. They just want to throw in the MLS, sit back, collect calls. Yeah, we got a couple offers on it. Boom. Your value is driving around local parks or looking at Facebook Marketplace, looking for sale by owners, which is really easy because remember, there's nobody really doing it. Spend your weekend doing 1 or 2 days doing that, find 3 or 4, buy one of them, maybe 2 of them, and then less is more. So pushing outside, nothing crazy. Replace the windows. And the thing is, with mobile homes, you can't knock down like the walls because the whole thing will collapse. So it's not like you're doing like these crazy gut rehabs like a regular single family house and like all of a sudden there's mold and like all this crazy stuff to discover. Well, yeah, there could be mold, but you just the amount of work you have to do if you want to do in a rehab is significantly less. Like an average flip should take 7 to 10, maybe 2 weeks. And that's like usually replacing the floor if it needs it, the subfloor, put some new carpet, maybe some new appliances, update the kitchen, update the bathroom, do some fixtures, power wash and clean the inside. And that's about it. And maybe you want to paint the outside, like, and maybe add a new ramp or something like that. So it's or just replace it, like if it's a handicap one. So it's literally like 10 to 15 things you could do. And then you put it back on Facebook Marketplace and you're not paying a real estate broker. So you're basically eliminate the real estate broker as the middleman. They don't know how to market anyway. And then as like people, your creatives are using Facebook. Well, Facebook's the most powerful platform for marketing. Throw it on Facebook Marketplace, even though you could use your own, ad account or just do the boost. But, because you can't really super target because it's a housing and they put new restriction out like 2 years ago, but throw on $50, you'll get 20, 30 calls in like 3 days. And then you just find one buyer and you flip it and boom. Because remember, there's a shortage of affordable housing. The average house, 300,000, you bought the house for 10, put $5,000 in it, you sell it for 20, 25. And you can't compare it. The good thing about it is real estate, a regular MLS data is not collected. They're not, most 99% of homes aren't selling on MLS, and it's not a comparative because the brokers don't know how to price it. So you can make up the price. You just say, hey, I need to make $5 or $7,000 for it. Look at a couple of comps, but then like there's no data on like regular single families. You could say, well, we put new floor in and we power wash it and like it's better than this unit, even though it's similar. I need $5,000 for it, and you'll have 20 people that want it. So you control, unlike MLS, which controls the data. So you have this basically and plus, where else can somebody live in a house for less of the cost of like a Honda Civic?
Right.
And pay $10. So they don't care. Like I could, my minimum wage and be living comfortably, and then it's cheaper than my car parked up front.
It's just, I mean, I'm my wheels are just spinning. And then you have a digital marketing agency too. So do you know how to market these things as well?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's
So
one
it's
advantage.
just, yeah, it's just a win-win situation. Do you market specifically for real estate agents?
No, we focus on the agency side. We do Facebook ads and Google ad lead gen basically for HVAC and RV dealerships. So RV is very closely. Reason we don't do mobile home parks is mainly because the average mobile home park does like 300,000 or 400,000 in revenue, and if you're charging $3 or $4 a month or plus ad spend, like they're not even making any money. So It doesn't make sense for them. They make their money on the where you make the money in mobile home parks is if you're the best tax advantage of all real estate. It's actually 15 years for land depreciation. Multifamily apartments, think Grant Cardone, those are 27.5, and any homes owned by the park is 27.5. So we have, their Grant Cardone's like, tax depreciation. Like we actually have the best of all real estate. It's 15 years, and it's kind of little known fact. And then when you sell it, just same thing. You want to buy it, you buy the park for $1.5 million and sell it 10 years down the road for 3.5. That's where you make your money. You don't make it, and plus you get better cash flow than other real estate, but it's not like a local HVAC guy that does 300,000 a month in cash flow. I could charge him, you could charge him $4 or $5 a month because then you're going to add an extra $500,000 in revenue. So that's what we focus on, those two niches. We also do custom websites, a handful of custom websites a year that they're pretty good. We're actually really good at that. So, and then regards to marketing it for the parks we own, so I use the same thing I'm teaching the course. I'm literally showing people. Like if I check right now, I probably got 6 or 7 messages from people just from the Facebook boost and one of the homes we're selling. So
I'm so fascinated by all this. I'm like, I want to go learn more. So when your course comes out, I'm like, okay, because I get bored. And then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do next? But
Tennessee is a hot state. Everyone's moving from like Chicago, where I'm at, New York, are coming to the 3 hottest states are Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. So
yeah. Yeah. It's like we have so many people moving here. And I don't know, the news, the media, they're like 100 people a day. And it's awesome for the economy and for businesses. And there's some really large companies moving here. Um, but it definitely drives the cost up of real estate,
Yeah.
even like the further you get out of the city. What like where I grew up, like 30 minutes outside of the city, Mount Juliet, like what you used to could get for your money and like what you can get now, it just keeps like it was like
Going up.
inching up, and then the pandemic hit and everything just, shut up. So this is a great thing. So if people want to learn how to do this, when will your course be available and what is the site so people can go and check it out?
Sure, sure. Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, the last couple of days I put probably 10 hours. I did the last 50 or 49 states because there's officially no mobile homes in Hawaii just because it's in the middle of the ocean, and so they need
Yeah,
a
that makes
manufacturer
sense.
there. And then the house, there's so many different islands, so they never really put it out there. I think it would do really well for like the Big Island, but so the 49 states I had literally put down all the title laws. Um, and so like I'm literally filming some content today. That's why I got the hat and the backdrop here.
Yeah,
The
love
step
it.
and repeat, I guess you call them. So yeah. So thank you. So about 4 weeks out. So it's going to be pretty comprehensive. I really put a lot of effort into it. I have all the contracts. I have like a lot of people, the exclusive interviews of not on any other course. And so we want to be cheaper than all the other courses. The other, like by a third. I've looked at the pricing, what they want, and we have the private Facebook group, and then we'll have special guests to come on to give like live Q&A type stuff, and then we have literally step by step, and then so much like we have a calculator which like you put for cost because you mentioned that. Lumber cost is the biggest thing right now for flooring. That's going up like
Yes.
I would say like an average house spending like $1,000 more compared to like it's a smaller house than a 3,000 square foot house. An average will only like 900 to 1,200 square feet, but so at least saving the lumber costs because those are crazy right now. And then we have like a cost simulator. June 14th is probably when it'll be launched, and that's we do have a site right now. It's not the ClickFunnels. It's not that I have 2 funnels built, but they're not live. It's mobilehomewealthacademy.com. So mobilehomewealthacademy.com, and you can fill out there, and they'll have like a form, a lead capture in there. You get first access to it. So, and then we're gonna have contests. So if it does pretty well, we'll probably have contests and giveaways and things of that nature. We got some good ideas. We'll probably even give cash to somebody to buy like a small mobile home. That's probably one of the ideas we're gonna throw out there. So
That's awesome. Like in my world, in the design world, it would be like, okay, we're going to run a contest to see who can decorate and design like the coolest mobile home. And people would like enter and like come and design these homes. I
yeah,
mean, everything is a contest. Like, I don't know. We love contests. Like, I'm competitive. Like, I think people really love contests. So I love that idea. But we'll put everything in the show notes too. So if anybody is interested in it, they can definitely go and check it out. And then I love so y'all on this podcast form, we're like, hey, where can people connect with you on social media? And are you on any social media at all? You're just like, no. He's
well,
like,
and I don't know if I'm throttled or what happened to me, but dude, I have decent amount of followers, like 5 and like 3 or 4,000 to follow me on Facebook. So I put Facebook, but every time I do a post now, like 2 people see it. I do a video.
yep.
I'm like, I literally I would do something. I would launch like here. I'm giving away a scholarship, like which I am for the HVAC side. I'm giving away free scholarships. 2 likes, 0 likes. I'm like, dude, I'm giving away 50 grand, and people. I do all paid now.
It is definitely all pay to play. Well, with Facebook. So it's yeah, the organic reach, it isn't there on some of the platforms. You definitely have to pay to play. And also like what makes me sad on the digital agency side
Yep.
is like a lot of people, they don't know what they don't know. And so they'll go spend their money and boost stuff, but they're not doing it like in business manager, like under ads.
Yep.
And then they're not tracking, and then they don't have a pixel code, and then they can't
Yep.
retarget, and then they don't understand. and they're like, hey, can you just run a Facebook ad? And I'm like, no, it's not that simple. Like, we need a strategy and we've got to back up. And I'm not just going to take your money and go run an ad. Like, and Facebook has just made it more difficult with all of the updates. Like, I'm
Yeah.
still, and they're still working through bugs, like depending on when you're listening or watching this podcast, like, hopefully a lot of these things will be worked out. But even like some of the best marketers on Facebook are a little stumped at like some of the bugs and some of the things that like they're trying to work through. So, I mean, we partner with people that do it. I don't want to do it. It like gives me a headache, but the return on investment when you know what you're doing, it's set up
Yeah.
correctly, is really amazing. Like the reach that you have to people, but you got to know what you're doing. You can't just like sit down and watch a YouTube video. Like, it's not that simple anymore. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on it, but
No, 100%. I think, which you made a couple points, and that kind of goes back to the courses. People think they just put a course up and all of a sudden to do organic. It's not probably going to work. And all those guys, like you mentioned, I should have mentioned this earlier, but yeah, a lot of those, like you said, how much do they put in ads? Like we're expecting, like the courses start at 2, and then we're going to go probably 25, $3,000. We're going to kind of see what it costs to acquire a customer. Our competitors are charging 5, 7, 10,000 for the exact same course that we're doing. And one of the reasons is they could say, hey, it cost us $1,500 to $2,000 to acquire a customer. So if we're paying $1,500 to acquire a customer, obviously we're not going to charge $2,000. We're going to have to go up. And that's the reason the course is, yeah, as a course, if you sell 50 course at $2,000, it's 100,000, 1.2 million a year. But your profit margin, if you're only making $500, just, and that's not including taxes or anything else, and you might be making like $200 or $100 a course. And like, okay, cool, I made, $10,000 in a year. So basically, we have to figure out what the cost. We've talked to a couple of funnel builders. I hired 2 of the best, and I have 2 different people they've done their funnels, or the funnels you probably bought from, just because they were excellent what they did. So they were saying 500 to 1,500, depends on what the promise and the offer is. And then also, which goes back to you said, in this year, the new Facebook with Apple issue, changing the rules and the retargeting. The retargeting is going to be a big thing. I would recommend people using AdRoll for retargeting, a perfect audience. Those are good platforms for retargeting. It makes you look like you're a lot bigger than you are. And those are, you could go for little as like $5 or $7 a day for those. And those are actually really easy stuff because it's just literally just refollowing ads. They just you put the pixel on your website, have a web developer do that. And then they even, AdRoll will actually give you the first ad sets for free. So you'll have your cool creative and your copy on there, and then you'll be up and running in like 2 days. So AdRoll is good for retargeting. I recommend them. And those are those ads that will appear on, like if you're on TMZ or CNN, Fox, whatever, it'll follow them around and all those little ads on the side of so it makes you look like a lot bigger company. But Facebook, yeah, but like you mentioned, Facebook, it's getting they change the back end every month. So like
every day.
So every time, like, oh, you click here, and that's like a new button. Like, yep. And then sometimes I'll call the client, I'll do a Zoom, like, hey, let's do some changes here. Click, and then I look like an idiot. I'm like, this was what it was yesterday, but now they moved that section somewhere, and then it takes me like an extra 10 seconds. You'll find it. It's like an extra 10 seconds, but you look like you haven't done it before. I'm like, they literally changed it. By the time we have like this call, if we did it tomorrow, they might even change the back end again. It's like, I don't know why they do that, but there's like no other platform changes their back end and the business manager it's literally like every month, like it's small changes. And so even if you went to YouTube, like if the YouTube videos are more than like 3 months old, I guarantee where you click on is going to be off. So those videos on YouTube, if you're trying to figure out how to set up your ads, unless it's like within this 2021, it's probably, you're going to be spending an extra hour trying to set up that because it could be off.
It's so true. It's so true. I just have to laugh at it. I mean, every Monday we like get on with our whole team, and then the guy that like leads the initiative of it, he's like, oh my God, they moved it again. Oh my God. And he says the same thing. He's like, I'm not an idiot. Like and I'm like, listen, I know you don't have to explain it to me. Just find it. So the next time I need to see something, I'll know where it is. And then I'll go in to look for it. And it's not, the button's gone. I'm like,
yeah, for no reason. I don't know why Facebook does that. And they have the worst reps. Like I have a rep, and you're just spending, after you start spending so much, they have like the generic, and then they have the first tier. There's like 3 tiers of reps. Yep. But then like a lot of times these people like their best bet is actually just talk to people that are spending millions of dollars in Facebook ads. So getting groups online or, you know, in Facebook, those guys are actually like, yeah, the rep doesn't know what they're talking about because Facebook says this, but the algorithm is performing different than what they expected. So follow the people who are actually spending the money. You'll get a lot better advice than the, you know, the reps that are paid like significantly less. If a guy is making millions of dollars on Facebook in revenue, I listen to him more than somebody that's just going there, chewing on some gum and doesn't really care.
100%.
That's a big tip. Don't listen to the and Google. Same with Google. The Google has the reps like they think they know, but then they give you like the worst advice. Like, and it's funny because you'll literally see groups of people like, hey, I did their recommendations and now my ads costs have like tripled.
Yep.
It's crazy. So don't listen to advice. Like get in groups, you know, hire people that could perform for you. Like you mentioned, get a team that's going to help you. That's the key is like it sounds easy, like you said, but it's not. Like you need a team in today's business. So if there's entrepreneurs on here, they're first, you know, they're solo entrepreneur, they're first getting going, start finding some people you could partner with. You could maybe do a rev share. Like I do a rev share, even with, I have a couple e-com stores. I like, even though I have media buyers, I'd rather hire the best. I'm like, here, I'll do a rev share because if they're going to make me more money, and I can have my team focus on my clients, but if they're going to make me more money on that specific niche, I partner with them and say, hey, well, if you perform, I'll put the credit card behind it and we'll rev share with you. And then that's the way to grow your business. So look at ways to be creative and don't look at like trying to nickel and dime a dollar. Find partners, partner up with people, invest in yourself, and it's going to pay off long term because you got to keep experimenting, testing different things, and see what works for you. And that's some key takeaways if some of these are kind of first getting entrepreneurship. And the faster you test, the faster you get to results. And some things you think will work probably won't. And things you don't think will work. So just get out there and test it. Like, and with the course side of it, the biggest key takeaway is just have the quality content out there and find a niche that people, it's not super oversaturated. Like there's 3 or 4 other courses right now. And right now, one of the hottest selling ClickFunnels is a mobile home niche. And then the other ones are all doing 7 figures. So like, I'd be highly surprised if we don't hit 7 figures because we have the media buying team. We have 2 hot top end funnels. And then we're basically undercutting everyone, plus a year guarantee, plus we have all the contracts, plus 49 states that you need, all the title, all the title tips, everything you need to succeed. And then plus we have all these exclusive interviews. So like we're basically coming in like the Bulls from the 90s or like LeBron James from the Lakers last year. We're coming in like this all-star team. So as long as the offer kit hits, I don't see why we won't hit 1 million.
I love it. So one last question. Tell everybody how long it took you to build the course and focus on it.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Yeah. So I started kind of promoting. Well, I first started the first funnel builder about this time last year. And then they did the funnel and I love the guy. He's on my Facebook and he's very, very known. Like you've probably seen his ads. The first funnel, they did an offer. So it was a little bit cheaper. And then they ended up getting too many people. I ended up signing they originally reached out to me and the price was like way more expensive. And they came back like, oh, we're doing a special for a couple people. Like we literally like your concept. So we're just a couple people. So what happened was they blew up in last year. Like if I mentioned the guy's name, you know who he is. He's all over the internet and does very well. In the first funnel, it took like 3 months. And it was like complete garbage. It looked like something from like 2001, like somebody like that just did the first ClickFunnels. There's no graphics, no design, no copy. I'm like, I just went off. I'm like, what is this crap? Like, dude, I waited 3 months of my life for a funnel that looks like, somebody you just outsourced on Upwork for like $100. Like that was that bad. I'm like, dude, I got all these podcasts I'm on. I got all this, we're all ready to go. And they're like, no, we're sorry. If you don't mind waiting another 5-6 weeks, we'll rectify the situation. They came back with the funnel of all funnels. Like you could tell, like I said, here's what I need. They came out like exactly like they do for like their celebrity clients. And like this guy's, you'll know if I mention, I was thankful this day because he was because sometimes in this digital marketing agency, you get people that just kind of like disappear. Like when I was speaking to my e-commerce guys, I went through 7 media buyers before I found somebody good.
Yep.
7. So that's the people like, and the problem is every time I give them it's $4 or $5, $6 grand per testing plus, so you're losing money until you, like you mentioned, like, you're going to lose money in digital marketing until you have enough data and have the right team. Like this dream of like, oh, you just start off and then tomorrow you're going to start making money digitally. No, you're going to lose money. Like you need some credit card, you need to have some reserve. And now everyone's online, so it's going to get worse and worse. And so if we're all using Facebook ads and you're all using ClickFunnels and it looks the same, the offer's the same, you have to have a trendy niche or great offer. And a lot of times, some of the best $1 million courses, like you see the funnel, you're like, I don't even know how this, it's so basic. The promise is good, and it's so basic and simple funnel. Like it's the more intricate ones, you're like, oh, this would do really well. It doesn't do well. So, but yeah, going back to say, invest in the team. So that was last year. They came back. We had the funnel ready, and then like I had like a lot of autoimmune inflammation, all this stuff last year because I was overworking, overstressed. And so it's kind of derailed me for the last few months of recording. I've kind of got like insecure, like I lost some hair. Like I still have a full head of hair, but like I lost, like they call it telogen something, or I lost like 30% hair, but it looked like I had like more than hair than like 99% of the people. But me, I'm like so known for my hair. So I was like I'm doing all these like, collagen peptides and biotin 10,000 milligrams and like MSM, all the different, vitamin and sleep, going to sleep and stuff. I used to get up like work from like 4:00. I'm like, let me sleep into like 6:30 now. So I'm getting more sleep. But so the moral of the story is it's going to be from the original concept to me, it's talking about it last year, about this month. It's going to be about a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll make improvements on it. And I could have done it in probably like 6 months, like we were talking before. It's like to do it right. Like I don't want to be on like CoffeeZilla or one of those like this is a scam. Like we literally and then I'm gonna have probably I would say 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12 hours of video content plus all the contracts alone. If you went to your local, even if you got them on like a cheap website and like you're probably spending $500 in contracts at the minimum, but probably about $2 or $3 grand for the contracts I'm providing. Those are, so you're right there, you're breaking even or not. Plus all the other the time you save. And then the cool thing about our niche is unlike regular single family, you don't need a 700 credit. You don't need to have 20% down. A 20% down on a $300,000 house you want to flip, or you get it for 200, you're still putting 40,000 down. You could buy 5 mobile homes and remodel them for that and make the same or if not more and do it every week, every 2 weeks, flip them. Like it doesn't take more than a month. And the cool thing about our niche, it's so basic that they could flip mobile homes really quickly. And there's such a need for affordable housing. So it's not like one thing, it's going to really help people to make the extra income, but also provide quality affordable housing for people that need it. So, but like you said, it took a year. It's going to take basically a year. And also for me, I was a little nervous, even though I do like a lot of podcasts. I was just a little nervous to record myself on video. This is like, I mean, I can talk, I speak in, it's different. Like when I'm speaking in front of people, I'm fine. I speak digital marketing. I do like conferences and stuff like that. I speak on stages and I'm comfortable with that. But it's weird recording yourself and then uploading it to the internet. It's just weird to me.
I felt the same way when I first started doing video, but I had one of the best video coaches. He used to work with Dave Ramsey. That's where I met him years ago doing a podcast. And he was like, you got to get over it, Angela. It's not about you. It's not about, I mean, I'm a chick. It's like, well, my hair and my makeup and my clothes. And he's like, it's not about you, honey. It's about the knowledge and everything that you're sharing and how you can help so many people. And literally my very first video that I ever did, he's like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, it's a Friday night. I'm rolling washcloths and soaking them in my bathtub with cucumbers to make these really like fresh smelling washcloths for an outdoor event tomorrow. Like that's what I'm doing tonight, like 500. So we went to the Dollar Tree and got all these white washcloths, and then we throw them away afterwards because it's gross. Like people are sweating all over them, whatever. And so he's like, awesome. I want you to video that. And I'm like, why? No, like I'm going to be in my robe. My hair's on top of my head. Like I do this before I go to bed and it soaks overnight. And he's like, I want you to video it and I want you to explain what you're doing. I'm like, but this is stupid. Like it's common sense, like an outdoor wedding, whatever. And so I did what he told me to do. And oh my God, he was so right. Like he knows what he's doing. And all these people started commenting. They're like, oh my God, this is genius. I never thought of this and da-da-da. And I'm just like, oh, wow. What I know and the knowledge I've learned over the years in working in hospitality, not everybody knows these things.
Right.
And what seems so simple to us is not so simple to everybody else. But it was such I'm so glad that happened to me like early on before video really took off from a marketing perspective, because now, like the first few years, I was like, everything has to be perfect. And then I got so over it. And then the things that actually perform better is when I'm not like so perfect, because you're not relatable.
Yeah.
People want to relate to you. And so I'm like, I'm not perfect. I'm always learning. We make mistakes, which I call them opportunities. So it's like the more transparent that you are with your audience, the more they appreciate that. And I mean, that's why people listen and watch to this podcast. It's like, you're not going to fluff it up. Like, you tell it how it is. You use yourself as experience shares constantly. And I'm like, if I just would have had this 15 years ago, I would be a little bit further along. And I mean, it all goes back to helping people. So I feel like I'm like preaching to you, but I'm like, don't worry about your hair and the way it looks and all that, because as long as your knowledge and what you're sharing is a powerful message and it's going to help other people, you're good. And like, and the bigger you grow and the more your video gets out there, the more trolls you're going to have. And like, I love it when people do it. I'm like, I'll pray for you, but clearly you watched my video. So
Right.
you must
Yeah,
have
you
learned
got their
something.
attention. You won.
Yeah. So it's like reframing on it. And I mean, we've even turned a few trolls into clients, like online, where they end up buying because they're like, oh, we didn't expect you to come back. It's almost like they're looking for a fight. And usually
Right.
it's never about you. Like, it's something with
It's
them.
their insecurities. Yeah.
Yeah. So go do the videos and crush it. And we'll put all this in the show notes. I could talk to you forever, but we have to wrap up. And this was so much fun. So thank you so much for being here. And everybody listening, be sure to tune in next week to another episode of Business Unveiled. Bye, y'all.
That's it for this week's episode of Business Unveiled. Now that you have all the tools that you need to conquer the world and GSD, get shit done, would you share this with your friends and fellow business leaders? One thing that would really, really help us and help new listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a comment in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in and listen to Business Unveiled. You can check out the show notes at angelaprofit.com/podcast and link up with us on social media so you can share your biggest insights. And I want to know your aha moments. Until next week, remember, the profitable shifts and structures you're creating in your business help you be more present in your life. So get out there and GSD.